There's a prayer, a single prayer that changed a woman's financial life forever. She wasn't rich, didn't have special connections, didn't know any business secrets, but in less than 3 months, her income doubled, all because of 14 words whispered in silence. If you're struggling with money right now, if you feel like you work hard but never get ahead, if you've tried everything and nothing's worked, then you need to hear this story. Because what you're about to discover in the next few minutes will challenge everything you've been taught about money, work, and abundance. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I've spent years studying cases like this, and this particular story kept me up for weeks. Let's start at the end. December of 2022, New York City. Sarah Martinez looks at her bank account on her phone. She blinks, looks again. That number can't be right. 3 months ago, she could barely afford rent. She worked 16-hour days as a freelancer, took on extra side hustles on weekends, and still, every month was the same struggle. Now, for the first time in her adult life, she had savings, she had security, she had options. But how? The answer lies in a prayer she discovered by chance. A prayer that changed not only her bank balance, but her entire relationship with money. And this prayer comes from a woman most people have never heard of, but should know. Florence Scovel Shinn. If you've never heard that name, it's not by accident. There are forces that prefer certain truths to remain hidden. Florence lived in the early 1900s. She was an artist, a writer, a teacher. But above all, she discovered something about words that no one else knew at the time. Something that wealthy people have always known, but never shared. Florence discovered there's a secret language of money, a specific way of speaking that makes the universe conspire in your favor. And she proved it, not just once, but hundreds of times, with dozens of people, ordinary people, just like you. But let me tell you how Sarah discovered it. It was a Tuesday in September. Sarah was desperate. She'd lost her biggest client the previous week. Her laptop had broken, and her rent was overdue. She was browsing the internet looking for urgent work when she accidentally clicked on a link. The link led to an old PDF. Yellowed pages from a book published in 1925. The book's title, The Game of Life and How to Play It. Author, Florence Scovel Shinn. Sarah almost closed the page. She didn't have time for old books. But something in the first sentence made her stop. Most people consider life a battle. But life is not a battle. It's a game. A game? Sarah kept reading, and the more she read, the more her reality started to make sense. Florence talked about something Sarah had never considered: the power of spoken words. Not just positive words, not just generic affirmations, but specific words, organized in a specific way, spoken at a specific time. Words that function like codes, codes that unlock opportunities. Sarah read about documented cases, people who escaped poverty in a matter of months, not through hard work, not through luck, but through this method. And then she found it, the prayer that would change everything. But before I tell you what that prayer is, you need to understand why it works. Because if you don't understand the why, it will just be empty words, and empty words don't change bank accounts. Florence discovered that the universe operates through specific laws, laws as precise as the law of gravity. One of these laws is the law of spoken word. Every word you speak creates a vibration. That vibration goes to the universe as a request, and the universe always responds, always. But here's the problem. Most people don't know how to make the right request. They ask the wrong way, at the wrong time, with the wrong words. And they receive exactly what they asked for. More struggle, more scarcity, more frustration. Sarah discovered this in the first week. She realized she spent all day talking about her difficulties. I don't have money. It's too hard. It's never going to work out. Each sentence was a request to the universe, and the universe was delivering exactly what she asked for. But Florence taught something different. A way of speaking that completely reverses this process. A way of using words as magnets for abundance. And at the center of it all was a specific prayer. A tested prayer. Proven. Documented. A prayer that Sarah decided to try. She had nothing to lose. It was Thursday, September 22nd. Sarah got up early, before the sun rose. She stood in the living room of her cramped apartment, closed her eyes, and whispered the 14 words. She felt strange, almost ridiculous, but something inside her knew this was different, that those words had power. On Friday, nothing happened. On Saturday, nothing happened. Sarah started to doubt, but Florence had warned about this. The universe's first reaction is always to test your faith. So Sarah continued. Every morning, the same 14 words. On Monday of the following week, the phone rang. It was an old client. Someone she hadn't spoken to in months. He had an urgent project. Well paid. Sarah accepted immediately. Coincidence? On Tuesday, another client. On Wednesday, another opportunity. In 2 weeks, Sarah had more work than she could handle. But that was only the beginning. Because what Sarah didn't know is that she had activated something much bigger. Something Florence called the divine law of supply and demand. A law that guarantees that the more you use this method, the more it expands, like a snowball rolling downhill. Sarah continued with the daily prayer, and the results kept coming. New clients appeared without her looking. Old projects were paid sooner than agreed. Opportunities arose from unexpected places. In 2 months, she was earning more than in the previous 6 months combined. In 3 months, she had doubled her monthly income. And it all started with 14 words whispered every morning. You might be thinking, this sounds too good to be true. I understand your skepticism. I thought the same thing when I discovered this story. So I did what any rational person would do. I investigated. I looked for other cases, other examples, and I discovered something amazing. Florence Scovel Shinn wasn't alone. Throughout history, people from all walks of life have discovered versions of this same principle. Multi-millionaire entrepreneurs who started broke. athletes who overcame physical limitations, artists who rose from obscurity to worldwide success. They all used some form of this word technology. But Florence was the first to document the complete method, the first to create a replicable system, the first to prove that anyone can use these laws. And the prayer Sarah used is just one of the tools Florence developed. But it's the most powerful, the most tested, the fastest to generate results. So what is this prayer? What are these 14 words that changed Sarah's life? And more importantly, how can you use them to transform your own financial situation? Before revealing the complete prayer, you need to understand 3 fundamental things. First, this prayer is not magic. It's applied science. Florence discovered that certain combinations of words create specific frequencies. These frequencies resonate with the universal laws that govern abundance. When you speak the right words, in the right sequence, with the right intention, you are literally programming reality to work in your favor. Second, this prayer only works if you know when and how to use it. It's not something you just say willy-nilly at any time. There's a specific protocol, a specific ritual, specific preparation. Sarah discovered this through trial and error, but you don't need to go through the same process, because I'm going to teach you the exact method. Third, this prayer will challenge your beliefs about money. If you believe that prosperity is only possible through hard work and suffering, if you believe that money is dirty or that rich people are evil, if you believe you don't deserve abundance, then this prayer will create an internal conflict, and that conflict can block the results. Therefore, before using the prayer, you need to clear these limiting beliefs. Florence taught a specific method for this as well. A method Sarah used in the early days. A method that broke down barriers she didn't even know existed. Now, you may be wondering why I'm sharing this with you. Why not keep this secret to myself? The answer is simple. Florence always believed that this knowledge should be free, that every person has the right to live in abundance, that the universe was created to sustain all of us, not just a few lucky ones, everyone, including you. But there's a problem. Over the years, this knowledge has been lost, distorted, turned into unsubstantiated theory, or worse, turned into tools to exploit desperate people. My mission is to rescue the original method, the method that really works, the method Florence taught, the method Sarah used, the method that hundreds of other people have used to transform their lives. So let's get to what really matters, the prayer. But before revealing the 14 words, let me tell you something that will multiply the results by 10. There's a specific time of day to use this prayer. A time when your mind is most receptive, when the universe is most responsive, when your words have maximum power. Sarah discovered this by chance in the 3rd week. She had missed her usual prayer time, so she decided to experiment at different times, and she noticed something fascinating. Depending on the time, the results were completely different. Not just stronger or weaker, but qualitatively different, as if each moment of the day activated different aspects of abundance. Florence had written about this. but in a coded way. She couldn't be too explicit at the time. People weren't ready for these truths. But now, we know exactly how it works. And when you know this timing secret, your prayer will have 10 times more power. Pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Feel the air entering your lungs. Because what I'm about to reveal will completely change your relationship with money forever. The right time is immediately after waking up, in the first 15 minutes after you open your eyes, before coffee, before your phone, before anything else. There's a scientific reason for this. During sleep, your subconscious mind reorganizes itself. It processes information, solves problems, clears blockages. In the first few minutes after waking up, there's a window. A window where the conscious and subconscious are still connected. It's at this moment that your words have direct access to your mind's internal program. It's at this moment that you can rewrite your abundance codes. Florence knew this intuitively. Sarah discovered it through experience. And now you know it too. So here's the complete protocol. First, you wake up naturally or with a gentle alarm. Second, still lying down, you put your feet on the floor. Third, you stand up next to the bed. Fourth, you close your eyes and breathe 3 times deeply. Fifth, you place your right hand over your heart. And then you whisper the 14 words. The 14 words Florence discovered. The 14 words Sarah used. The 14 words that will transform your financial reality. Here they are. All doors open. Every path is clear. My good comes from God. That's right. All doors open. Every path is clear. My good comes from God. 14 simple words, but each word was chosen with surgical precision. All doors open. Removes all limitations, all blockages, all barriers that prevent your abundance. And I understand your reaction. We live in a society that confuses complexity with effectiveness. Many believe that simple solutions can't solve big problems, but some of the universe's most powerful forces are incredibly simple. Gravity is simple, and it moves planets. Light is simple, and it illuminates galaxies. Love is simple, and it transforms lives. And these 14 words are simple, but they move financial mountains. The secret isn't in the complexity of the words. It's in their precision. The frequency they generate. The resonance they create with universal laws. Florence spent years testing different combinations, different sequences, different words, until she found this exact combination, this perfect formula, this code that unlocks abundance. But there's another element that multiplies the results. Something Sarah discovered in the 5th week: emotion. It's not enough to speak the words. You need to feel them. When you say all doors open, you need to see the doors opening. When you say every path is clear, you need to feel the clarity arriving. When you say my abundance comes from God, you need to completely trust this truth. Emotion is the fuel of manifestation. Words without emotion are like cars without gasoline. They exist, but they don't move. Sarah learned to connect emotion with every word, and that's when the results multiplied. She wasn't just repeating a formula. She was living a new reality. and the universe responded accordingly. But let me tell you what happened to Sarah in the following months. Because what you're about to hear will show you the true power of this method. In the 4th month, Sarah received an offer to become a partner in a company. Something she'd never considered, but the opportunity appeared naturally, organically, as if the universe had orchestrated every detail. In the 5th month, she was approached by a publisher. They wanted her to write a book on her area of expertise, with advance royalties that would cover her expenses for an entire year. In the 6th month, she met her mentor, someone who had already built exactly the kind of business she dreamed of, and who offered to guide her for free. Each development was bigger than the last, each opportunity more aligned with her deepest dreams, as if the universe had access to the desires of her heart and was working day and night to fulfill them. This wasn't coincidence. It was the law of the spoken word in action. It was the power of the 14 words unfolding into reality. It was Florence's method being validated once again. But here's something that will surprise you. Sarah wasn't the only one. After she started sharing her experience, other people started testing the method. Friends, family, co-workers, and the results were consistent. Maria, an accountant, increased her income by 80% in 4 months. John, a designer, landed his first international clients in 6 weeks. Anna, a teacher, was promoted after 3 years in the same position. Each person had a different situation. Each person had specific challenges, but the method worked for everyone because universal laws don't discriminate. They work for anyone who applies them correctly, regardless of age, profession, background, or current situation. The laws are impersonal, but the results are profoundly personal. Now you might be wondering, why haven't we heard about this everywhere? Why don't they teach this in schools? Why do people continue to struggle financially if this solution exists? The answer is complex, but let me give you the simple version. There's an interest in keeping people in scarcity. Desperate people are better consumers. Insecure people are more obedient workers. Afraid people are more controllable citizens. Genuine abundance represents a threat to systems based on scarcity. That's why methods like this are discredited, ridiculed, or simply ignored by mainstream media. Florence knew this. That's why she coded her teachings. That's why she spoke in indirect language. That's why her books were categorized as self-help instead of science. But the results speak for themselves. Hundreds of thousands of people have used her methods and transformed their lives. You can be next, but there's a condition. You can't use this method only when you're desperate. You can't treat it as a last resort. For it to work completely, you need to make it a habit, a daily practice, a constant conversation with the universe. Sarah has been doing her prayer for over 2 years, even when everything is going well. Even when she doesn't need anything urgent, because she understood something fundamental. Abundance is not a destination. It's a state of being. It's a frequency you maintain. It's a conversation you never stop having. And the more you practice, the more the universe trusts you, the more opportunities it sends, the more doors it opens, the more paths it clarifies. It's a virtuous cycle that only grows. But let me give you an important warning. In the first few days, you may feel internal resistance. Your mind may say it's nonsense, that you're wasting time, that nothing will change. This resistance is normal. It's your old programming trying to stay in control. Florence called this the testing period. The universe tests your determination before delivering the results. It's like a natural filter. People who give up in the first week aren't ready for real abundance. People who persist demonstrate that they deserve what they're asking for. Sarah went through this. She had moments of doubt, especially in the second week when nothing seemed to be happening. But she remembered Florence's words. Persist. Results come to those who don't give up. And they arrived in abundance. Now let me give you some practical tips to maximize your results. First tip, don't tell anyone what you're doing, at least not in the first 30 days. When you verbalize a desire before it manifests, you dissipate some of the energy. It's like puncturing a tire. The pressure escapes and the movement slows down. Keep your practice secret until you see the first results. Second tip, write down all the opportunities that appear, no matter how small. An unexpected discount at the grocery store, an invitation to a networking event, an idea that comes out of nowhere. All of these are signs that the method is working. And when you document it, you strengthen your faith. Third tip, be grateful for the results in advance, even before you see any outward changes. Gratitude is the most powerful emotion for accelerating manifestations. It tells the universe you've already received what you ask for, and the universe hurries to align reality with your conviction. Fourth tip, if you miss a day, don't beat yourself up. Simply get back to the practice the next day. Consistency is more important than perfection. It's better to do 28 days out of the month than to give up because you missed 2. Fifth tip, be prepared for changes beyond money. This method doesn't just affect your financial situation, it transforms your entire energy. You might notice improvements in your relationships, your health, your creativity, your intuition. This is normal and expected. True abundance is holistic. Sarah discovered this in the 3rd month. Not only had her income changed, she was more confident, more creative, more connected with her purpose. As if the 14 words had unlocked potentials she didn't even know she had. And maybe that's exactly what it is. Maybe we are all born with an infinite potential for abundance. And throughout life, we accumulate beliefs that block this potential. Maybe Florence's prayer simply removes these blocks and allows our abundant nature to express itself freely. Maybe the universe has always wanted to give us everything we need. And we just didn't know how to ask, or how to receive, or how to trust. If that's true, then each person using this method isn't conquering something new. They're simply returning to their natural state. They're remembering who they really are. They're reclaiming an inheritance that was always theirs. And maybe that's the true magic of the 14 words. They don't create abundance out of nothing. They simply remove everything that was preventing abundance from flowing, like unclogging a pipe. The water was always there. It just needed a clear path to flow through. So now you have everything you need: the complete prayer, the correct timing, the exact protocol, the practical tips, and the understanding of how and why it works. What you do with this information is your choice. You can keep it and never use it. You can try it for a few days, and you just need to learn how to ask correctly. Now you know how to ask. The doors are waiting to open. The paths are waiting to clear. Your good is waiting to arrive. All you need to do is whisper 14 words and trust that the universe is listening, because it is, and it always has been.